It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to Wine to 5. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, two wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
Hey, Val, and hello, listeners.
Hey, listeners, and what's up, Steph? Are you enjoying this little chilly Colorado September weather and glad to be back in the FOCO for a while?
Yeah, it's so nice to be back, and this weather is really kind of dreamy. We both are going, can this just stay like this forever?
Oh, I know. And, you know, it's so funny because last week, if you remember, everybody, Steph was sitting in a sweltering 109-degree Phoenix desert.
Yeah.
So some of you got to actually hear snippets from Steph's European vacation, but Steph actually got to taste and experience some things that we think you guys at home would like to hear more about. So in this episode, we're going to start with her time in Portugal, how it came about, because that time in Portugal is actually an add-on, right?
Yeah, it wasn't part of the original travel plan.
And then we're going to move over to the scene of last week's embarrassing wine story in Menorca, Spain. And we're going to finish up in the French Alps. But before we get started, because we both have a nod, Steph, to your first stop, what do you have in your glass?
Yes, in Portugal, the most common drink everybody is enjoying is white port with tonic and a lemon wedge. You can adjust the tonic to your liking, but it's typically like 1 part white port and 2 parts tonic. I had never had it until I went there. Is this something that you drank before?
I believe I had it at Purple in Seattle.
Oh, nice. Nice.
I was expecting to get a glass of just straight white port, but it was actually a cocktail. But it was when they were having record-breaking heat and not the typical weather, which is more like we're experiencing here. I was really surprised by it, but I really enjoyed it. It was refreshing.
Yeah, it is refreshing, and I think that the white port goes really nicely with the tonic. And some people do lime, but I like the lemon, and I've seen it as a lemon, at least when I was there, that's how it was served. So that's what I'm drinking. What about you?
I have a nod also to your trip. This is the 2015 Assobio by Esperal. It's a red wine from the Douro DOC in Portugal. I was going to say, who cares about the grapes? But we do care about the grapes today because they're right on the bottle. Touriga Nacional, 40%. Tinto Roriz, which is Tempranillo, 30%. And Touriga Franca, 30%. Now, we've mentioned this producer before on the show, but this particular label was actually part of one of their initiatives to save the Tua. Have you heard about that?
No.
Assobio for the Tua. So apparently they're building this dam, and this dam is going to harm the Tua Valley. So they're worried about this destruction and the historic railway line, which are part of the Alto Douro wine growing region, according to their website. And this whole region was part of the World Heritage classification by UNESCO in 2011. So they actually started this bottling as part of their campaign to save the Tua Valley. So when I read that on the back of the bottle, I was like, what's this?
Yeah.
And so this is probably about $11 bottle. So these are great prices, but I believe they were sending money to help save the Tua.
Oh, so you're drinking for a good cause.
You know, why not? Instead of drinking just because, you're drinking for a cause.
I
so
like
that's
that.
always nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to say that when I used to do the American Cancer Society tastings. I would say, we're drinking for a cause, not just because.
Yeah, that's cute. I might steal that.
Yeah. Let's talk about what you drank last summer. So as you guys know, because you clicked on this episode, it's called I Know What You Drank Last Summer. Now, I know what Steph drank last summer, and you guys might be wondering what kind of cool stuff she got her hands on. And we're going to start with back in episodes 153 and 154. And that was earlier this year, but we talked about port with our interview with Adrian Bridge, and he was from the Taylor Fladgate Company. And that interview was so extraordinary. Seriously, people, I don't know why you're not clicking on it more, because it is swoon worthy.
It was such a great episode. We were both really happy afterwards. And because of all that, you know, I was sharing how much we loved speaking with Adrian and how we were so excited about Porto that Justin and I decided just to literally drop into Porto on our way to Spain. Why not?
Right. And so they should never tell you to just come see us sometime, because we will. And Steph did just that. So when Adrian mentioned the Yeatman at Villanova de Gaia at the end of the interview, well, Steph went and made it happen. So tell us a little bit more, because you were on your way to Spain originally, and you decided, hey, why not stop in Portugal?
Yeah, why not stop in Portugal? And we could just, bop in for a couple of nights, stay at this hotel that we heard so much about from Adrian. So if you have listened to that episode, you know what we're talking about, but I encourage you to go back and hear him tell it. But by staying there, I got to experience the tasting room that was next door. I got to experience the views from the hotel. You're at this perfect location that every single person I talked to about going to Porto said, you have to go to the Yeatman Hotel just to see the views. So that was pretty impressive. And they have a cool, classy bar where they even have Portuguese singers, like there's live music. There was a pillow menu, Val, in your room. I
love that.
It's just over the top wonderful. We didn't get, though, to experience the spa, the venotherapy spa or the pools. So that's definitely something we have to do next time. But the absolute best thing about the Yeatman is the gastronomic experience at the 2-star Michelin restaurant that's inside the hotel. And we got so lucky because we didn't have a reservation when we showed up. And they even told us, this never happens, but we have a table for you. And they only have certain seatings. So it's, pretty strict on who can come in at what time. And we had a table right by the window to have views of the water and Porto. It was probably the best dining experience. No, it is the best dining experience I've ever had.
So what was the best part of that, the restaurant?
Oh, the restaurant. Oh my gosh. Well, the food, of course. They said 7. It was 7 courses. And Justin and I, we just kept shaking our heads because there was more and more courses. There was probably 12 courses or something. We have photos to prove it. The food had so many different textures and colors. There was a lobster with melon and tarragon, and it was just so incredible. It even had this cool little drinking. You drank this melon puree with each bite of your lobster. So they had you kind of interact with the food too. I just loved how it really is an experience. It's not just food.
So if everything's paired with Portuguese wines, are you telling me you had 12 glasses of Portuguese wine?
Well, not exactly, because sometimes you would have the same wine for a different, for multiple courses, or one of the courses we considered it sort of kind of like course 0, because they had a digestive tea that you start with. It was just that long dining experience where everything is perfect. They even brought up a little stool for your handbag so that it wouldn't, your handbag had its own special place to be. And,
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So you had course 1A
and
course 1B.
Yeah.
Now this is course 2, but this is the first part. This is course 2A1.
Yeah.
That sounds divine.
And then, only having 2 nights in Porto, but tasting all of those Portuguese wines and tasting all of those foods made you feel almost as if after 2 days you experienced a lot more of Portugal. So it was kind of cool.
So before we move on to the visit to the Taylor's tasting room, what wine stood out at that dining experience?
Oh.
Was there a wine that stood out?
I would say, having some sparkling wine from Portugal was not really what I ever think about. So that was pretty cool. But the very first wine we had was the Taylor's dry chip port, white port.
Ooh.
Dry chip white port. We had it a few times after that dining experience, but Justin and I loved it so much, and I couldn't find it yet in Fort Collins. I might have to order some, but I think it was, something we just didn't expect to enjoy so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you went to the tasting room next door, so tell us a little bit about that.
There's a museum that is a self-guided tour. They have a restaurant. They have peacocks, a rose garden. You just have so many things to see and do that I would recommend at least 3 hours Justin and I spent 5 hours there. You can see how you need to really plan for this. And if you like to be at, at a comfortable pace, but the museum has a lot of great information, some hands-on things. Then the tastings are sort of customized, that if you want an appointment to have certain kind of wines, you can do a customized appointment, and then that price is also customized. But usually the general admission tour and tasting only includes 2 wines. But Justin and I had the privilege of having 9 different wines and kind of a customized tour. It was really mind-blowing just to have all of this time to really take in what Taylor's is doing. The hotel, the food, and the wine, and the whole entire wine experience. So that was pretty cool. And we really loved tasting the 2016 vintages of vintage port. So that was pretty cool.
Now, when we think about what you just had, this is an experience you would not have had we not had that interview with Adrian, because we wouldn't have been too high up on our radar. And I suspect, and I bet the listeners at home are probably thinking the same thing, that you will never look at a bottle of Taylor Craft or Fonseca again the same way.
Never. And I think that's the point, is that when you go someplace in person, because a lot of people feel that way, even if they go out to Napa and they visit Cakebread or something, you just never feel the same about it, because now you have a bond.
Right. There's a story behind every bottle, like we say. And this is my point about it being part of culture. And we talked a lot about, just kind of a quick shift, we talked a lot about in our 2 episodes we did on port this summer about Croft Pink.
Yeah.
And all the cool things you could do with it. So you got to actually taste that one.
Yes. So Croft Pink, and we actually bought some and brought it with us to Menorca because we loved it so much. And it really kind of reminded me of the Italian pink Rosa Regale's
Bracchetto.
Oh, yes, the Bracchetto.
Yes.
It kind of has...
Rosa Regale.
Right, Rosa Regale, the Bracchetto, kind of had a little bit of a feeling like that. But, it doesn't see any wood, so it's just like fresh, because it has stainless steel, time only. You serve it cold or over ice. And we knew that it was going to be so hot in Menorca, and that our friends would totally dig it, like in the pool, at our villa in Menorca, drinking Croft Pink. And it was a huge hit, unlike that wine from the Embarrassing Wine Story last week, which was really a bomb. But the Croft Pink, we totally loved it.
You're going to lay some factoids on us real quick before we move on to Menorca, the scene of that dropped bottle wine crime that, listeners, you'll have to go back to next week's episode and check out.
Wine crime. Yes. Well, there's lots of factoids. I just wanted to drop a couple of here. First of all, I mentioned tasting the 2016 vintage ports, but they are not on the market yet as of this September 2018 recording. But we did get some great advice, because our tasting guide, her name was Sky, she said to think of vintage ports as a person and avoid opening them when they're a teenager. And we thought that was really cute, and people might remember that, so just as sort of a guide of when to open vintage ports. I thought it was kind of cool that when we were tasting Croft, Sky said that Croft is considered to have the best vineyards in the region. So it's one of the reasons why Taylor's wanted to bring them on as part of their portfolio. And then the other last little factoid, which I thought Val would think was cool, and she probably already knows, but Sky told us that some of the laws making port changed. Like in 1986, the government supplied, or anytime before 1986, the government had supplied all of the brandy, which is the neutral spirit that helps with that fortification of port. And so all these port houses had to get their brandy from the government. But in 1986, that all changed, and now they can choose their own. So that also is now a reflection of the taste and the character of these different ports, when it used to be something that was all the same. Did you know about that?
I'd heard something about that used to be regulated, and I didn't remember the years or anything like that. And I was like 20 when that happened. So I was just past being that port pervert teenager H.
That's funny.
So to continue on with the lifestyle of the Stephs and famous.
Well, I do know that some of our listeners, like Lynn, is making a trip out to a port, and some of our friends out in Phoenix, people are going to a port, and I'm like, you have to go to Taylor's. I mean, give yourself the adequate time to really do it and have a custom tasting done. Tell them what you want to do.
I have to say that I'm spoiled with custom tastings, and I usually like to, even with wineries, call ahead now and say, hey, I just want to come. I'm particularly interested in this wine. And I don't like to do the crowded tasting room thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's just, that's just me. And this is why Val can't leave the house. But you went on to Menorca, Spain. And first of all, you chose that as part of your 40th birthday celebration, which is this year.
Yes, that's right. And it was only going to be Menorca, and then it just started to like branch out and to have a beginning trip to Portugal and a ending trip to France. So we did go to Menorca, and it's not really a wine place. There's not a lot to talk about as far as wine goes, but we did go to a beautiful winery called Benefidet. They make a lot of wine. We tasted 6 of their different wines: sparkling, white, rosé, red. They have a restaurant there. So if anybody is traveling to Menorca, I do recommend it. It was really nice to sit out there and appreciate, overlooking their vineyards. Their menu was exquisite. Everything was wonderful. I didn't get to do a tour, so we missed that. And I would recommend, if you go, to take the tour. But Menorca is known for gin. If you didn't know it, everybody, it's known for gin, not wine.
And I never even put 2 and 2 together that that's where the Mahone gin came from. It's made with wine grapes, and it's the only gin produced on the island of Menorca. And we did see a tweet from them last week, Steph, so it was a really cool picture of you guys. And I did read, probably through one of Miss Jane's articles, of all things, that Mahone gin is the only PGI, or geographically designated, gin in the world. It used to be Plymouth gin, but not anymore. But you did bring something back from Jorguer that you're going to tell everybody about later. And I'm actually sipping this as part of our little audio tour of what you drank last summer. So tell us a little bit more about the distillery, and then tell me about this green stuff in my glass.
Okay. Well, Jorguer is actually the only distillery on the island that is making that super special gin. So that's pretty cool. And what also is good news is that everybody can pretty much buy the Jorguer gin in the U.S. and most of the countries. It really is widely distributed. I didn't bring back a lot of that gin because, you can get it. But I did bring 2 of their flavored liqueurs, because they have many, many, many flavored liqueurs that they also produce and are fun to taste when you go there. And actually, if you go visit the distillery, it's like a self-service tasting, and you just taste whatever you want. And so it's really nice and easy to visit, and they're very helpful there. So anyway, I loved that experience. What Val has, because Val got to try the chamomile liqueur a couple, almost a month ago, I think.
Yeah, with Diane and Jeff.
Right.
So they got to try it too. That was so awesome.
Yeah, so that was cool. That was one of the things I brought back. And then I brought back some little tiny travel size bottles of a herbal liqueur that it's funny because they don't actually tell you. Even me, they wouldn't tell me. But I'm like, what do you put in this? And it's really just one of those secrets. All it says, and I'll read it to you because they wouldn't tell me when I was there in person, and their pamphlets don't tell you either. It just says savory aromatic herbs from the Menorca island. So I think it has kind of an anise flavor, and it's more of like a digestivo than the chamomile one had. Obviously herbal notes, but it was sweeter, I think, in a way. So what do you think, Val?
This is minty fresh.
Minty fresh.
And even long after I swallow, it is straight up mint. Oh. So there is some kind of mint all up in here.
Whoa.
Was that part of your Menorca dining experience? Was mint something, an herb that they used?
It was served to us after dinner at a really excellent restaurant before we went to the distillery. So we already had gotten familiar with it. But it has some herbal minty notes, and then we thought it had a little bit maybe of kind of like an anise note too, but it's not fully defined, at least when we had it. So I think I picked up the same thing. Maybe I got you something different.
This is the Airbus. I'll put a picture in the blog, HIERBAS. I swear it's like a delightful mouthwash in a good way.
In a good way. Okay.
If I've got a business meeting, I might just take this along.
Oh, that's funny.
A little swish, swish, swish. Yes, I'm kidding. Okay. Oh, you were going to talk about the food.
Oh, well, the food, how can you not talk about great food when you have the chance? Because people who love wine love food. They love cheese. They love food, all that stuff. But the seafood on Menorca is why you go there. Little did I know that you should also go there for the best eggplant I've ever had. So that was really a big surprise. But drinking Spanish wine there, having that incredible food, going to the distillery, those are the highlights besides the beaches and the sunsets.
Why wine tastes better on vacation?
Well, it does. Everything can taste better, right? But I recommend it. Please, and anybody can reach out to me at any time about any of these travels, because I do like to share recommendations.
Now, I'm not going to go down and get a wine from Savoie out of my cellar for this next portion because, time. But you did finish up your trip with 3 nights in the Savoie region of France near the Alps. Tell us about that dreaminess.
Yes. Oh, it was dreamy, and also not too much of a wine focus, but we did have a fine dining experience at Atmosphere, and I highly recommend that. That was in Chamonix. We stayed at the Hotel Heliopic, and what's cool about that place is like the rooms have views of Mont Blanc and the Alps. The craft cocktails downstairs in the lobby are ridiculous. There was a spa. I mean, you walk everywhere, great location. But what was totally something also unexpected was having this killer mezcal cocktail at the Monkey Bar, which is this totally crazy place. And I have a funny picture of a guy who was photobombing, and I was like, no, go ahead, just photobomb the Monkey Bar picture. That's fine. And it's really funny. I saw the guy later on, like the next day. But great place to visit. I do want to go back and maybe have some Savoie recommendations, like wines, wineries, places to go, and wine geek it up a little bit more. But totally beautiful food, beautiful place. I love Savoie wines. There was a couple of years ago where I had a case of wine that I had, but it was my summer white house wine.
Oh, you know what? It was the Jean Jus.
Oh, that's what it was, the Jean Jus.
Yeah,
that's what I had. Because it was just perfect price, crowd pleaser, goes with everything. Or not, you just have it by itself.
Yeah, that was a nice summer, easy day.
Yeah, easy day.
Yeah, easy day wine.
Or your day just got easier kind of wine.
Yeah, we drank that. Gosh, our first year, that was my summer white wine too, the Jean Jus.
Jean Jus.
Oui? Okay, so should we throw down on some wino radar after that little tour around the world, Steph?
Yeah, deliver us some wino radar, Val, please. I don't need to keep talking.
Oh, I would rather just relive that tour through you because it sounds really awesome. But because we're already in September, later on this month, the 30th of September, is International Podcast Day, and that is all around the world too. So you can celebrate that in the Alps or on an island in the Mediterranean if you'd like, or sitting by the Douro River, wherever. But we thought it would be fun if Wine to Five listeners showed your swag. And if you have a button or a t-shirt, and everybody who supports the show should have something. And some of you have gotten some swag recently as well. So use your Go Vino glasses, get creative, or take a screenshot of you playing the podcast, however you regularly listen to the show. You can share it on social media, be part of the celebration, and help us raise awareness for International Podcast Day. I know we share podcasts that we love. We recommend other podcasts. They don't necessarily have to do with wine. They can have to do with cheese. They can have to do with anything. International Podcast Day is going to be a special one this weekend because we have a special surprise coming up. Now, our patrons are going to hear and see about this in the next couple of days. So download that app. and keep abreast of those things, because that's one thing I have found with the shows that I support, that I love that Patreon app, and I never thought I would say that.
Yeah, the Patreon app is really slick and it's easy to use, and even my brother said that's how he prefers to listen.
Yeah, and I never thought, because the shows that I support, I get the app and I don't have to go click, because I couldn't figure out how to make the RSS feed work for patrons in the regular catcher, because I use Overcast for my feed. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, I'll just use the Patreon app and I'll listen that way. And you can do that.
Yeah.
So definitely download the app and check out what we're going to be laying down here later this month to correspond with International Podcast Day. And then Sherry Week. International Sherry Week is October 8th through the 14th. Go to sherry.wine/Sherry Week and learn more about it, because we love us some sherry.
Because we love sherry.
We do love sherry. We did a couple episodes on sherry too, so you can always go back and listen to those with the sherry producer as well.
Yeah. Well, and I have to just do a few shout outs. There's 7, so I'm going to run through them really fast, but I just want to thank Tori Domenico, who set up my appointments in Porto, Chris Forbes, who helped me out at Taylor Fladgate. He's the export sales manager. Sky, our tasting room guide. She was amazing. Chef Ricardo Costa at the Yateman. Nuno at Abolino Restaurant, and Eric mentioned who recommended that restaurant to us. Yana at Gin Jorigare Distillery. That's kind of a funny combo for me to say. And then Raj from Glass Revolution, who set up my appointment at Gin Jorigare. So thank you, everybody, for that.
That's right. And all of this would have probably never happened had we started this podcast, Steph. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I know. Crazy.
This is what happens. It connects us to the world. We're hoping we're connecting you guys to some good juju too. And we are also really happy about our sponsor, Wines Till Sold Out. So shout out to them, because they just hooked us up with some really cool swag. And Wines Till Sold Out is wine at the best price online, one at a time, until it's sold out. Just like the name says, they have free shipping options and 100% satisfaction guarantee.
So go to your listener page that we have for you, weeklytasting.com/W25 to sign up and get started, or you can just go to our Wine25 webpage and click on the link in the right-hand corner. But now on to Patreon love.
Yay, patrons. We love you. We love our Reserva Superiore supporter, Robin from Girls Gone Grape, our Reserva supporter, Auntie in Georgia. Jeff from the We Like Drinking podcast is one of our tenacious tasters, along with Sebastian of Sassy Italy Tours, Jen in Maryland, David and Lisa in Illinois, and Anne-Marie in Virginia.
And it's not 5 o'clock and we don't care listeners, Meg in South Dakota, Clay in Arizona, John, Andrew, Aswani, and Kristen in California, Chantel in Ontario, Canada, Mary Lou in Pennsylvania, Kathy in Georgia, Chris, Janet, and Diane in Colorado, Steve and Renee in Illinois, Kathy in Tennessee, Sean in Ohio, and Ashley and Sarah in North Carolina.
And our tastemaker listeners, David in Scotland, Carol in Kentucky, Karen in California, Chip and Katie in Pennsylvania, Serena in New York, Annie in Colorado, and Danielle.
Go to our Patreon page to find out more, patreon.com/Wine25 podcast, and you can be entered into our monthly drawing as a Patreon at the $2 level a month or higher. And it gives you access to exclusive content and a chance to get your very own Wine25 swag.
So between our weekly episodes, you can find goodies on our website. You can also find us in the social spaces at Wine25. Until next week, everybody, cheers!
Thank you for listening to the Wine25 podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/WineTWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.